Hello, feel-gooders. As I promised, I am doing an episode to discuss why balance is so important in our everyday happiness. We always hear how people say, oh, balance, you need to be balanced, you need to have a balanced life. And we've probably already experienced ourselves feeling better when we have a balanced day, when we get our exercise in, when we get our meditation in, when we get our social recreation in, when we get some work in. That's when we really feel good. And maybe, I know I didn't understand until recently why balance is so important and why balance makes us feel good. And in order to understand why balance gives us such a good feeling at the end of the day, we have to understand the divisions of ourself. And when we understand what the different aspects of ourself are and how to keep them happy and what they like and what they need, we'll understand why balance feels so good. So let's get right into it. This is my personal explanation of the divisions of the self. It comes from years of observation and practice, and trial and error and experimentation. I followed a very scientific method of coming up with this, and really, I don't think it's that much different from some other schools of thought. I have observed that there are about 5 divisions of the self, of you, of me, of everybody. And it consists of the following. Number 1, the soul. I put the soul at the apex of things. The soul is the oldest, wisest, coolest, most laid-back part of us. It's the part of us that has volition, right? It decided to come, in my concept of things, it is the part of us that decided to make this journey or have this experience here on earth in a body. It is the part that has agreed to take back seat to the self, who does not know of who it really is, right? But that is the game of life, which I can discuss more at a later time if it does pertain to actual happiness and feeling good, which it does. Understanding always leads to peace, which always leads to feeling better. So the soul is the part of us that is cool. It's knowing. It knows, right? It knows. It knows everything. It is the part of us that has been endowed with all of the knowledge of the universe, or you could say the creator, or you could say God. It has God consciousness, right? It is consciousness. It is our consciousness, our soul. We are not often conscious of it, but it does have its needs. Just know that. And its needs are to love. That's all it needs. It just needs to love. If it finds that you are not being loving enough, you will start to see some issues happening. The soul is in control of the immune system. Its expression is through the immune system. Your vitality. The soul has a lot to do with that. So when you realize, hey, the soul needs to love, and it's one of the most important aspects of yourself. If you're not loving, you're not going to feel good. There's going to be something that feels off if you're not loving, if you're not having an open heart, if you're not forgiving, if you're not being vulnerable. Something's going to be off. That's why people go to drugs and other substances and shenanigans, as I talk about in my book, because the soul isn't being loving and they feel a void. They're empty. So just know the soul needs to love. Let's move on to the next aspect of self. I started with the soul, but I'm going to go out of order of importance just for clarification, just for understanding. The next part of self I want to talk about is the self. The self is the part of you that does not know about the soul. Why is it set up like this? Because if the soul knew about itself when it came to earth, there would be no fun. There would be nothing to play out. The whole game of life is that you are given a fake self that does not know of the higher self, so the fake self can find itself again. That's the game of life. For me, that's the point of life, to find yourself again, to rediscover, so you can have that experience of joy, so you can have the experience of diversity and then unification again. Because we start unified. We are all unified. All of us are of the same body. But the issue with that is that we can't experience anything that is not ourselves. So we have to divide, become our own individuals, our own personalities, so that we can play out the game of life and hopefully rediscover who we really are, which is just one. We're just one. And my friends, once you discover that, it's one of the most beautiful things you will ever feel in your life. And I think a lot of us have already discovered how we are one with each other, how we are all of the same body, even though we have such different opinions and wants and dreams. When you realize, and yes, I'm getting a little choked up, when you realize that that is the whole point of life, to realize that we are all one. It is the most beautiful discovery you will make, and many of you may have already made that discovery or seen glimpses of that truth in your lives already. But getting back to what the self needs, what it wants, the self needs to express itself, and there's nothing wrong with that. We always talk about, oh, you're selfish, and you're supposed to be, that's a part of life, is to express yourself. That's one of the whole points of coming down to earth, to express yourself. Now, you need to be balanced. You don't want to impose yourself on people, or you don't want your expression of yourself to impinge on other people's expression of themselves, and you don't want to be abusive, and you don't want to be obnoxious, right? But you are supposed to express your individuality, because that's one of the points of life, to come down to earth, to express your individual self. Now, we spoke a little bit about the nature of ourselves, who we really are, in a previous video. I think it was my first one, why not to kill yourself. And why not to kill yourself? Because you are beautiful, because you're precious little child. That is the nature of yourself. Even though we oftentimes adopt these super obnoxious, super annoying personalities, right? Who we really are, we're loving, we're peaceful, we're kind. We're adorable. We just want to be loved, right? And as we'll talk about later, that is a combination of our soul and our spirit. We're going to talk about the spirit in a second. The spirit is another division of the self, another aspect of the self. But just know, your self needs to express itself. And if you are not expressing yourself, your sensuality, your individuality, your personality, you are not going to feel good. You are not going to be fulfilling that aspect of the reason why you're here. So get the nose ring, get the tattoo, wear the weave, wear the afro, however you want to express your individuality, how you're feeling, what you think, it's fun. Have fun with yourself and express yourself. Because that is one of the things that this aspect of yourself needs. Yourself needs to express itself. So if you're not feeling good at the end of the day, it could have a lot to do with the fact that yourself is not expressing yourself. Let's move on to number 3, in my opinion. The third aspect of the self is your ego. Your ego. I call it your lower self, your clueless self. You can have a lot of fun with it, right? Because if we were all perfect and angelic, right? If we were all expressing our highest selves, life perhaps would not be as exciting or dramatic, So the ego, the childish self, the clueless self. So you need the ego, It would be great if it were on the lines of being more balanced and a little more suppressed than it usually is. But our egos are needed. Why? Because we need to protect ourselves, right? Our ego is our protector. The ego is the protector of the self. The ego is sort of the beginning. It is sort of our starter selves. It's kind of what we get in the beginning when we haven't developed as much. We got to start somewhere, right? So it grows. As we grow, we're only aware of ourselves. That's our ego. And then as we get more and more developed as a human being, we start becoming aware of other people and other people's feelings. And our ego gets a little less powerful, and ourselves, our true selves, right? Our higher self begins to develop, and our ego becomes a tool of our higher selves, right? To give us confidence, to give us courage. The ego needs to express itself too. The ego needs to feel powerful. The ego needs to feel respected. The ego needs to feel independent, needs to feel strong. The ego doesn't want to feel like you are patronizing it. It doesn't want to feel patronized. It doesn't want to feel like other people think it's small. That's why sometimes people don't want help until they ask for it, right? They don't want you to help them because that is damaging their ego. Because the ego's like, I want people to think I'm strong. I want people to perceive me as strong and independent. And I don't want your help. I don't want their help. I don't want people seeing me like that. I don't want people pitying me. So understanding these aspects of yourself will also help you with the social world. Because then you'll know, I'm offending their ego. If people don't like you, you might be offending their ego in some way. Or you might be damaging some aspect of themselves or their selves. And you can kind of figure it out now. I'm not allowing them to express themselves. I am not loving them. I'm offending their soul. I am, offending their ego. You can pretty much figure it out now that you have a clue about what these aspects of self are. So the ego needs to feel powerful. It needs to feel respected. And you need to feel respected. So if you don't feel good at the end of the day, it could be that your ego is damaged. But the good thing is that your self is more powerful than your ego. So you can fix your ego yourself with yourself by reminding yourself who you really are. That you have a soul, and the soul is all powerful, all knowing, all like totally cool. So you don't have to worry about, this fake self, this ego starter self that was given us. It's not that important. Moving on to the spirit. You know how they always say a spirit is an animal. A spirit, in the alcoholic world, a spirit is alcohol. It makes you do things. It gets you high. It awakens you. It makes you, active and crazy and wild. That's what a spirit is. A spirit is your life energy. It is what was given to you when you came down to earth. People sometimes mistaken spirit with soul. And it's fine for you to have your own concept, but my concept and my observation is that spirit and soul are different. So spirit is that aspect of yourself that needs to be free. It needs to express itself too, but it wants to do. It wants to move. It is directly affected by your mind, right? It's affected by the soul. It's affected by yourself, your thinking. When I say mind, I say soul. I believe mind and soul are synonymous. Mind is not the brain. Mind is your consciousness, and the soul has consciousness. So mind and soul are synonymous. But your spirit is your electricity, your energy, your power, your force. If you've ever seen someone that's like taciturn and kind of gloomy and kind of just seems to have no life, their spirit is, their spirit might be a little low, might be a little inactive. Then there's some people with big spirits. Like I have a big spirit, and sometimes that's not good. Sometimes it clears out a room because it's too much for people. When people say over the top, extra, too much. I have a big spirit. It wants to love. It wants to be loved. But when it's hurt, it's really hurt. It's like a child. To me, a spirit is, the nature of a spirit is like a child. It's hyper and it's active. But when it gets hurt, it can really... it can really coil up, recoil, and go into hiding. And again, your spirit is directly affected by your consciousness. It's affected by your thinking, your ego, yourself. So when you feel good, your spirit is lifted. When someone gives you an insult, when someone puts you down, they're trying to break your spirit, right? What happens is that they make you sad, right? They make you feel bad. And when you feel bad, your spirit is dampened. They affect your the way you feel inside. And then that dampens your spirit. Give you a bad feeling, right? So in a way, your spirit is your inner current of life. And it can be affected by bad energy. It can be affected by negativity. What does the spirit need? It needs to be free. It needs freedom. Right? Not so much expressing itself, but it needs to be free. It needs to be free. You know how people say people could be in a really good relationship, but they feel stifled. They don't feel good because they feel like they're trapped. Because their spirit feels trapped. Their spirit feels unable to do the things it wants to do. The spirit is what needs to be free. It's the part of you that needs to be free. Your soul doesn't care. Your soul is just along for the ride. As long as you're loving, it's fine. Right? Yourself just wants to express itself. Your ego wants to be respected, but your spirit needs to be free. So there needs to be some point in your day where you feel free, where you are riding in the wind, or riding your bike, or running, or looking at the stars, or just being by yourself and being your wild self, or dancing, or being crazy, or, being sensual. That's what your spirit needs. Freedom, fun. Your spirit likes to have fun. It needs fun. That's why there's recreation in some schools. That's why we won't feel good if we're not recreating, doing something that we enjoy doing. Our spirit expresses joy, right? Joy, fun, fire, freedom, all the F's, and the other F too. But this is a family show. So that's what the spirit likes to do. It does. So there has to be a part of your day dedicated to that. Right? It's got to give the spirit what it needs. Now, the fifth division of the self that needs to be given attention is, of course, the body. Right? When you come here, you're given a body. And the body has needs too. The body needs to eat. The body needs to sleep. The body needs to procreate. It does need sex. That is a basic need. It does need sex. The body needs to be clothed. It needs things. It needs to be healthy. It needs to feel good, right? A lot of our feelings are directly related to our bodies. If you're sick and you're feeling weak, or if something's wrong in your body, a part of your body is not going to feel good. It's going to be a sensation. It's going to be a bodily, corporeal sensation that you have to contend with within your body. So, a lot of us are more keen to what our body needs than what our other aspects of self need. But the body needs to be healthy. So you need to exercise. You need to get aerobics, get that heart. It needs to be worked. It needs to remain supple. It needs to remain oiled. It needs to be stretched out. Your muscles need to be stretched. Right? Even you can talk about your brain, which is different from your mind, you guys. Your brain needs to be worked. You need to think. You need to exercise your brain, just like your other parts of your body. And so the body is more simple. It needs exercise. It needs good food, good nutrition, water, sunlight, air, soil. If you walk you do grounding, right? Stand barefoot in the soil. Drink eat some fresh salad, drink some fresh juices. I'm not saying you can't eat all the other stuff you eat. but just give the body what it needs. Give it its nutrition, its minerals. Drink that water. Get that sunlight. Get that vitamin D3. Just give the body what it needs. So now that you have a clue about, or have been reminded or reaffirmed about the aspects of the self, you know exactly what to give yourself each day to feel good, to satisfy all parts of yourself. The soul needs to love. The self needs to express itself. The ego needs to be respected, to feel powerful, to feel like it exists. The spirit needs to be free and have fun and enjoy and express joy. And the body needs to feel strong. It needs to feel alive. It needs to be stretched out. It needs to be exercised. It needs to be loved, right? It needs to love. And the way you're going to achieve this happiness, this satisfaction, this fulfillment, and feel goodness every day in your life is through your schedule. You want to put something in your schedule that satisfies each aspect of yourself, each part of yourself. Put it in your schedule. Meditation will satisfy the soul, right? And it will satisfy yourself too, your lower consciousness. Loving, having an open heart, having the approach to life and to others, having an open heart, not being so guarded, that is going to satisfy your soul. Being able to achieve things, working and achieving something throughout the day is going to satisfy your ego. Exercising is going to satisfy your body. Making love or, having romance, a romantic episode or pleasuring yourself in a way is going to satisfy your body. I'm just hoping that the listeners, I might have to put an 18 plus or 21 plus on this particular audio video podcast. And of course your spirit wants to have fun, enjoy, be free, recreate, socialize, right? Put this in your schedule, and I guarantee you're going to feel good every day. You're going to feel good despite what happens. You're going to have a better chance of feeling pretty darn good every day if you put these balanced acts in your schedule. So I hope you have enjoyed that podcast. I hope you can apply it in your world today. And I may do another podcast specifically on suggestions for putting these kinds of things in your schedule. But I will speak to you in another installation. This is definitely going to be in the church category. And I look forward to chatting with you again soon, later on in the week. Take care and stay feeling good.